it's just to the point, I'm tired of social media. If you haven't seen me on there, it's because I'm done for a while. You're going about your business, and all you really ask is that, don't call my personal number. Don't ask for my personal number. I mean, it's not like if you want an item, which they really didn't, they were just harassing. If you want an item, you don't need somebody's personal number. If you want an item, you don't need it. It's just to that point. They don't. I'm a threat. Is basically what it is. I'm a threat because what? I don't follow the status quo here, and I won't. Um, it doesn't matter if I start working again. It doesn't matter, if I have a part time job. It doesn't matter if I have a full time job. Um, it just doesn't matter. I'm not gonna drag people's name through the mud because I'm resentful that they're getting in my opinion, they're getting I'm not saying that's my opinion, by the way. I'm just saying, if I was ultra conservative or whatever, which I'm not going to drag people's name through the mud because I think they're getting a free ride. You know, you don't know underlying health issues. I knew a lady with MS that she did so much in one day, and she finally had to slow down, but she had so much to do in one day, just so much in one day that you would never think she was disabled. But, you know, if she chose to get on disability, and you would never imagine that she was disabled. You would never imagine just by looking at her. Um, and see, that's just the point. You look at somebody, they seem like they walk okay, they talk okay, but you really don't know that they're disabled. Um, so just by looking at somebody, you think they're not disabled. I mean, I don't know. I met somebody over at St. Vincent, and he saw how much stuff that I pack around in my fold out cart, and I thought that he was making a joke out of it, but he says, "Man, you are a fighter." He's like, "You mean you're not even going to catch the bus and it's raining?" And I'm like, "No, I've done this several times. I mean, if I got to get to go, if I got to get to go, if I got to go somewhere, you know, a little rain isn't going to stop me." Um, but he was trying to say, "Man, you just don't give up. You just don't give up." And yeah, God gave me that gift of just I don't give up. You know, um, Going off social media, basically, it's not giving up. It's just saying, look, I got better things to do with my time than sit there and argue with people that they haven't experienced life. One of them, not the way I have. One of them is in her 20s, and the other one, she's supposed to be working as a professional. She says she doesn't work there anymore. Well, we'll see. Um, but she's supposed to be working as a professional, and she's got nothing better to do with her time than sit there and put a laughing emoji on a post that there was nothing to laugh at. I'm just tired of it. It just gets down to the point where I know that my products, the things that I sell, are worth a lot more than what I asked for. I know they're a lot more than what I asked for, and do I want to do favors for people that think so little of me? Nope, I really don't. I'd rather give it away for free to somebody who values me and will look at it and they cherish the memory of our friendship if they were, if I was to pass or they were to move away. I wasn't close friends with the people that that lived in the trailer park when I lived over on Wilson, but they respected me. They respected me enough to care about my privacy. They weren't ever getting in my business, bothering me. They never were. They were great neighbors. And people trash talk them all the time. People make assumptions. People trash talk them all the time. I don't care if what people say was even true because they were good neighbors. I really don't care. Um, I miss that neighborhood. I miss living there. I don't care what was said about them. Most of the time, people that, it was like people that what? They think they're good because religion isn't going to save you. So, it's to the point where, I apologize to the person one of the people I shot back at, the little 20-year-old. I mean, I apologize to you, but the thing is that maybe next time you'll learn not to run your mouth and to leave a laughing emoji where it doesn't belong, and you think that a laughing emoji is harmless. Well, you know what? It's not. It's not harmless. It's ignorant. It's something you didn't have to do. Um, so what? Somebody says something, puts down a boundary that you don't like. Um, you're not. You're not the. You may be. Part of the because you didn't deny that you had been. I said you guys have been harassing me for years. You know. Well, congratulations. Aren't you something special? Somebody who's on disability has got COPD. My whole life is a struggle basically now that I have this. And so you're going to harass me and you're going to threaten my livelihood just what? Because you can. Um Even when I proved these people wrong, they were relentless. They were relentless. Even when I said, "Look, I'm giving this girl a good deal on this air conditioner." It was a lot more than, what I charged. I think I can't remember if it was 40 or $60. Seems like I I charged her $60 and it was like, oh, it was at least $100 I paid for it. And I gave her a good deal. They were going to say that I ripped her off, you know. And really, the administrator of the whole group, he says, you just put the price you want on it, it's your item, what you're selling. So it is what it is. You know, I didn't have to get as juvenile as you were being. I understand that. But, sometimes you got to meet people at their level. And that was my way of thinking. But, you just do your own thing. I apologize for what I said to you. I maybe didn't need to get so as vicious as you did. Um, but the thing is that you can't, expect to throw nothing but negativity at somebody and then play victim when they finally defend themselves and they finally go off on you. Um, I think these people were just laying there and waiting. They were laying there and waiting until they saw a post that they just didn't agree with. Um, and so then they were going to attack it. Good for you, harassing somebody, like I said, that has a disability. I hope you're proud of yourselves. You know, um, it's kind of weird how it's like Facebook, they don't really, somebody has a disability or whatever, they're not going to stand up for the person that's being harassed. They're not going to do that. No. I'm glad that they stand up for people of different races. It didn't used to be like that, in this society. Um but I wish they would do more standing up for people with disabilities. They let a whole lot of things go on that they don't need to. They really don't need to. And we're in minority too. You shouldn't stand up for one minority and leave the other ones out. So anyway, that's just how the cookie crumbles. But today's Sunday, and it's like, yeah, I like to dedicate this day to the Lord, the way I understand Him. Many have different opinions on it. Um, and I'm not saying one person's right and the other one's wrong. I like to listen to Dolores Cannon a lot, and her thoughts on it. God, do you try to attach a sex to God? God doesn't have sex. God is a force. That might sound foreign to you, but when you attach to me, I think he's a man, but I think that he has female characteristics. I mean, he created females. That's not too far off. But when you attach a sex to it, is when you attach judgment to it. You may think that you're not attaching judgment to it, but you actually are. Because, we have our opinion about the sexes. We have our opinions that females are weak. I mean, you hear people say, well, she fights, or no, not she, he fights like a girl. Well, you know what? I know some girls that, man, I'll tell you what, they're like the bodybuilder type. It's not my cup of tea. I mean, I wouldn't work out to the point, even if I could, I wouldn't work out to the point where I look like a bodybuilder. But, I mean, working out, I mean, I just, after this, I probably will walk the park because I'll tell you what, I've been kind of a hermit and I want to shed a few pounds and I want to start looking better. Um, but it's like, I'm not going to kill myself to do so. And I guess where I'm going with that is I don't like working out to the point where the muscles are bulky or whatever. I still want to have the shape of a female, but I mean, yeah, you hear expressions, certain expressions, oh, he fights like a girl, or don't throw that ball like a girl. And there's judgment behind sexes. So, you know, um, that's why it's so much easier for me. I mean, I see God as a man, but I also see him with female characteristics that, why would it say in the Psalms, he will cover you like a bird covers her flock with her wings, or her young with her wings. Um, Anyway, you know, I've often quoted Ecclesiastes, and it says, for one thing, my friend quoted it with me. There's nothing new under the sun, but the other thing it says is everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And, I was joking with him. I have to kind of censor this, but I was joking with them and saying, that is God's, that, to heck with it, God's effort book, of the Bible. It's when God just said, heck with it. They're going to do what they're going to do. I can give them advice. I can give, that's basically what scripture is. It's just advice on God's how to book on how to lead a successful life. I mean, you look at, for instance, people that have more than one partner. Can you think of all the things they suffer from? You know, um, for one thing, the jealousy and the hurt it causes, and another thing is they can get disease. It wasn't part of God's plan. Um, I mean, originally, yes. I mean, you look at Adam and Eve, and they had to it was part of being the go forth and multiply plan. Um, but as we progress and as we mature, God said, "Hey, I have a different plan." I mean, this was the original plan. It made sense. It made sense when I mean, you had to populate the earth, but now, I mean, look at the earth now. It's overpopulated. There's no reason for a man to have multiple wives. Although in some countries it takes place, and all I can say is those are some strong women being able to deal with that. And I'm sure that there's jealousy, but they're used to relationships where there's another wife involved, or maybe many other wives. They're used to it. That's what they've been brought up with. But that wasn't God's original. That's not. It was His the beginning plan. But that's not the plan. That He wanted to stick with. That's not the plan that He knew. He made females a certain way, and really, men get jealous too. But men are more sexual creatures. I mean, they really are. And so, you know, you don't get a lot of females saying, or, well, you do, with females, you do, but you don't get a lot of men saying, well, you just used me. You just used me for sex. Maybe they'll say, you used me for money, but they're not going to say, well, you just used me for sex half the time. There might be the occasional man that says that. There's an exception to every rule, but for the most part, you don't hear men saying that. Um, so, God's saying, here's my plan. My plan, look at that little guy. He's eating his little nut there. Oh, how cute. I just had to show that to you. Oh, how cute. Um, but you don't get, it's like God's telling you these things. He's like, this is what's gonna help you have a happy life. He's basically making suggestions. Christians didn't like it when the 10 suggestion book came out, and it wasn't a means of changing the Bible. I guess it was 10, no, it was 10 agreements. The 10 agreements. And they didn't like it when that book came out, but they misunderstood it. It wasn't a way of changing the Bible. It was just a way of saying, okay, this is how you lead a happy life. And it was basically stating some of the agreements that you make to have a happy life, some of the things that you decide, some of the lifestyle changes, and it was kind of a way of suggesting, okay, this is how you have a happy life, but it's up to you. It's up to you. And when the Bible was written, it was just opinions. Basically, it was opinions, from different scholars, different all the different apostles, and their different opinions on how to lead a happy life. And our society has progressed. I mean, we live in a society now that people with different lifestyles can be happy. People that they're homosexual, people that are transgenders, people that they're bi, they can be happy. But back in biblical times, I mean, you look at it and oh my goodness, I mean, if a transgender person walked down the street, I mean, they would be stoned, and I don't mean the fun kind. I just thought I'd throw that in there, but they would be stoned. Not promoting drug use, but they would be stoned. So you know, it's kind of it was for your own good kind of book. It was for your own good. A lot of things were for your own good. And if a couple, if they were unwed, we always want to, point at the homosexuals or the gays as being the minorities. But back in biblical times, even if a couple lived together and they weren't wed, this is when Jesus was laying out grace. This is when Jesus was saying, okay, it's good that you have some form of morality, but there's a different way. There's the path of grace. And, we just took the Old Testament, basically, a lot of Christians, they just took the Old Testament and they ran with it. They just thought, okay, well, this is an absolute black and white thinking. It's like you either fit with the status quo or you're out. And, that's pretty much what I struggle with. I mean, of course, it's not like Old Testament times. Of course, it's not like Old Testament times. It's not like, I mean, it's not as bad as the Old Testament times, but I'll tell you what, the group of conservatives, the ultra conservatives in Idaho, are just outrageous, you know. And I would rather, you know, I have my friends that I talk to, um, but I would rather be a loner than be fitting in with a group of people that do nothing but bully people that are different than them. Um, you know, the Lord never meant, He never meant in a million years for anybody to be excluded. you know, this was all our doing. This was our doing, most of it. You know, it was, men wrote the Bible, and it was basically saying, you know, maybe you had better go with this lifestyle for your own good. Um, People that really, I mean, they follow, what do I'm trying to think of the word for it. I don't like to throw around labels, and I try to be as graceful as possible. But people like to say, well, see, Christians are, they're, they're the, they're to blame for every prejudice in the world because of the Bible. And really, we're not. We're not. Really, I mean, I've been even told by one person that, she had said she was an atheist, but she said Christians are to blame for slavery. Um, and I asked her why she thought that, and she says, well, because in the Bible it says slaves need to obey their masters. And, you know, was it right? I'd have to see what apostle wrote that book. I'd have to look that up. What book is it? Because I remember reading that scripture. Was and I don't think it was right, but it was basically a thing where um, whoever wrote that scripture was basically saying, man, for your own good, you better do what they say because they're going to be brutal with you. And I don't want to go into what happened. I mean, you're going to have to read, or you're going to have to watch the movie or read the book of what happened to Kunta Kinte. I will say this much is that they made him go by another name. I think the name they picked for him was Toby. I think it was that. They made him go by an American name. I mean, they were saying you can't even go with your own ethnic name. You can't even go with your God-given name, the name that your parents gave you, the name that your culture. They were saying you can't even go by your God-given name. And I can't, for sake of staying on the social media platform that I choose to stay on, um, I can't I can't go into details of the atrocities that took place, because that would be that. I don't want to get taken off of here. My job is to spread my job, and what I feel like I'm called to do is to spread awareness. And so I don't want to go into the atrocities that took place, but there were some atrocities that took place that where you have to question you have to question the human race. You have to question, I mean, could these people really call themselves humans for as vicious and brutal as they were? And I'm going to leave that right there, but it was something else. Um, so that was the whole purpose of, you know, in the Bible where it said, and that's what I believe is like, that was the whole purpose of why they said some of the things they did is for your own good, for your own good, you had better do this. Um, I picked the wrong place here. It's like I get kind of self-conscious and I don't like people chiming in um, to my podcasts or looking at me. We're kind of weird when I do my podcasts. Here's a here's a spot. Um, but yeah, they were saying, obey your masters because if you don't, you know how brutal they are. Um, it was a very unforgiving time. Um, Women were expected to be absolutely perfect. I mean, for the most part, a woman had to dress very modestly, have her head covered, when she attended. I mean, it even says in scripture, women must have their head covered. And, could you imagine if we followed all of that nowadays? Would we fit into mainstream society? Not really. We progress so much. Um, so, you know, um, the bottom line, he was saying, God was saying with scripture, this is my love letter to you, and these are my suggestions of what you need to do to have a happy life. Be with one person if you choose to be married at all. Be with one person, you know, be busy with your hands, you know, lead a quiet life. Be busy with your hands, meaning be productive, whatever that looks like to you. Be productive, lead a quiet life. And it was God's way of saying, mind your own business. And, these people, I'm going to give a rundown and I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail with this segment this section of it. But these people, they've had a long standing grudge against me. They have had a long standing grudge. Trying to create a better environment for people. That's what I have always tried to do, create a better environment for people with different lifestyles. Um, just less hostile. Because, I mean, there's people that, man, I mean, they've been through, you just don't even know why they made the choices they've made. And they go to these congregations, and they're crying out for Jesus. I mean, they're hurt, they're wounded souls that are just crying out for Jesus, and they go there and they just get judgment and hatred. And that is the last thing that God ever wants for his people. That is the last thing that he ever wants for his children. But it just seems to be an ongoing thing, is that you know um, there's people that don't want to, and they're not going to be here on the new earth. I've said it before, they just don't want to. They're holding on so tight. No, this is the way we've always done it. This is tradition. They're holding on to tradition so tight. And when it comes right down to it, they won't be here on the new earth, because God is a huge energy force. It doesn't matter if you see him just as an energy force and not as a him. It doesn't matter if you see him as a woman. It does not matter. But he is a huge energy force of love and light that is not going to let the earth be the way it was. You'd think we learned the first time. You know, um, the first time when God said, "Hey, this is my plan. Don't touch the forbidden fruit. Don't touch the forbidden fruit." And oh no, we know a better way. We know a better way. If we would have refrained, um, if the two people that were here in the beginning would have refrained from touching the fruit, they would have, if they had never touched the fruit, they would have never known the difference between good and evil. Because that fruit held the knowledge of, when they had those fig leaves covering their body. you know that's when they realized they weren't clothed. I mean, they covered themselves with the fig leaves. That's how clothes came about.